Hey everyone and welcome. Well, it seems Sadiq Khan hasn't given up trying to cut to the EU and has now sent a letter to Michael Gove against the position of his own party leader, I might add. Seems Keir Starmer, you do not control your mayors as much as you lack control over your radicals. This article is in the Express and it's a perfect rebuttal in my opinion from former MEP Richard Tice'e. It's titled, Richard Tice'e labels Sadiq Khan a clear and present danger to London and UK finances. Now, as you can see, good old Richard is not an happy chappy and rightly calls out the totally useless and less virtue signalling, obviously, mayor and his stupidity. Let's read Sadiq's article, shall we? In a letter to the Minister for the Cabinet Office, Michael Gove, the Mayor of London, criticised the government for putting dogma ahead of the national interest. The letter, dated June the 1st, was posted on social media by Mr Tice'e. Mr Khan's letter calls for the government to extend the Brexit transition period with the UK despite the Prime Minister's repeatedly ruling out any delay. Posting the letter on Twitter, Mr Tice'e launched an attack at Mr Khan, claiming he had bankrupted Transport for London, which he has, and now wants the UK to take on billions of EU bills, which he does. I mean, he wants to extend another 2 years, isn't it? 39 billion a year, while we're having to deal with what's going to happen over the lockdown of Lurgy. I don't think that's a good idea, do you? Mr Tice'e wrote, fresh from bankrupting TFL, needing government, bailing out even without Lurgy, Sadiq Khan wants to expose the UK to hundreds of billions of EU bills and liabilities. He is a clear and present danger to London and UK finances. I actually agree with that comment. He is 100% in my opinion. The UK voted overwhelmingly in the general election to leave and not extend transition, Sadiq. The UK formally left the EU on January the 31st, debatable, and at that point there was an agreement over the terms for its departure from the bloc. The government has until the end of this year to negotiate an agreement on future ties or start 2021 without a trade agreement, which is precisely what Leavers wanted, Boris. Just saying, we didn't want a deal. There was nothing on the ballot paper that said deal. It just said, do you want to be in or do you want to be out? Out means everything. Do your job, which some businesses say could cause costly delays and confusion at borders. Do they really? You know what that would probably be? I'd love to know which companies. Would it be media companies or, I don't know, something else along those lines? Because it doesn't give you any sort of proof on what companies, just some. You notice that? It's just some companies. It's not this company, and this company. No, that's too easy. It's just made up, this. But Mr Khan believes due to the ongoing battle with the deadly Lurgy pandemic, the last thing the country needs is you. More chaos and uncertainty. All right, okay. So and extending Brexit would not create more chaos and uncertainty. He wrote in his letter, most Londoners will be deeply disappointed that at the time of a crisis, the government is putting dogma ahead of national interest. Listen to the wording of that. Most Londoners will be deeply disappointed, putting dogma ahead of the national interest. So Londoners are always thinking about the nation, are they, Sadiq? So what you're saying is just London decides what the whole nation gets. Is that what you're saying? Because that's not true, is it? We have councillors, we have MPs that represent regions, do we not? No one anticipated when voting for Brexit that the key negotiations would take place at a time when all governments are rightly focused on fighting a global pandemic. No, you know what actually no one anticipated is that when we voted for Brexit, people like you would drag it out for 4 pissing years. You're getting nothing anyway, Sadiq. You're flapping your lips for no reason. No one's going to listen to you. He went on to urge the government to stop putting political ideologies, I beg your pardon, pot calling, first and focus on pursuing the pragmatic route of extending negotiations. Not a chance. Mr Khan added, Lurgy is the biggest health, social and economic emergency we have faced since the Second World War, and you would know how. Further disruption in the form of tariffs, red tape and new immigration rules. You hear that? New immigration rules. Now he's hit that at the end of that sentence, hasn't he? But you know for a fact that that is one of his main goals is to keep free movement of people. Why? Because it keeps people coming in that will vote for him. It's a power ego trip, all of this, in my opinion. But let me know what you think, everyone. I'd like to know, do you think this is just because he's a narcissist? Everything's about him and what he wants and him keeping his power? Because it does seem like that, doesn't it? When we leave the single market and customs union at the end of the year would be needless and hazardous. No, just getting out now would be... If we don't get out now, it would be needless and hazardous. Personally, I think we should just phone them up and tell them to F off. But what say you? Close regulatory alignment with the EU has never been more vital to protect our economy and support its recovery from the impacts of Lurgy. Mr. Khan argued negotiations are unlikely to progress towards meaningful results due to outbreak of Lurgy and said an extension is urgently needed. No, it's not. A quick exit is urgently needed, in my opinion. He said the government's negotiations with the EU and other countries are highly unlikely to progress towards meaningful results and agreements while the pandemic continues. An extension to the transition period is now urgently needed to give businesses and public services some certainty. How would that give companies certainty? See, it makes me wonder who keeps voting this man in, but then we all know that, don't we? That they won't face the threat of another cliff edge in 6 months' time. Otherwise, the government risks undermining the unprecedented steps it has taken to protect jobs and livelihood by prolonging uncertainty about our economy and the terms on which future trade will be conducted. You know what bothers me the most about this? People like Sadiq Khan and all of the left are always screaming about this cliff edge, like as soon as we stop trading with the EU, we're never going to be able to trade with anybody else ever. You see what that is? The whole term is designed to promote the lack of being able to do it on our own. You see why I get so annoyed about that one? The cliff edge is just self-defeatism, and I hate it. I really do. I hate it. His comments come days after a proposal to extend the Brexit transition period was slammed as despicable by a DUP MP. The Northern Ireland Assembly debated a proposal submitted by the Social Democratic and Labour Party, SDLP, last week calling for the UK government to extend the Brexit period due to the ongoing pandemic. But Sammy Wilson, the Brexit spokesperson for the DUP, dismissed the debate, saying it won't matter since Westminster will decide whether or not to extend Brexit. Mr Wilson slammed the SDLP proposal, calling it despicable for trying to use the health crisis as a means to pursue their political agenda on Europe. Very true that. Our Labour are doing exactly the same. He told the newsletter, aren't they, Sadiq? First of all, I'm not surprised at all by the SDLP for the simple reason that the SDLP don't want us to leave the European Union and will use every excuse to try and find a way of stopping us. And Labour have proved exactly the same thing, and Lib Dems and SNP. All of them are doing exactly the same thing. Granted for different reasons, but it's exactly the same thing. What I find particularly despicable is that they are trying to use the health crisis that we are facing as a means to pursue their political agenda on Europe. Secondly, not only is it a political move, but it is also an illogical move. What do you gain by delaying? The most urgency you put into this, the more likely it is that you will get the EU to move the negotiations. Brexit talks between the EU and the UK restart again this week via video link between David Frost, the UK's chief negotiator, who's standing firm, I might add, and his Brussels counterpart, Michel Barnier, that's crying like a little girl. The UK has until the end of the month to request an extension to the transition period with the EU, but Mr Johnson has repeatedly ruled out any delay. And rightly so, in my opinion. He should be ruling out any delay. We should be getting out now because it's obvious at this point, isn't it? Is it not? 4 years in, they're never going to give us a good deal. It's never going to be mutually beneficial. It's going to be beneficial for them only, and it's going to drain us of our money with no say whatsoever. So what are we waiting for? Really? Tories, get us out now. Now, what's my opinion? This shows the arrogance and desperation of this weasel. He's saying I don't care about party politics. I care about me and will do anything to keep my power, except stopping crime, running transport adequately, promising housing and building any, draining millions for vanity projects, etc, etc, etc. Richard is 100% correct saying he is a clear and present danger to London and UK finances. He obviously is. But anyway, what's your opinions? I'd like to know. If you're new, don't forget to hit the like, comment, subscribe. Share it out, everyone, and I'll see you on the next one.